1 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. We will start with the pledge to get all of our allegiances up to date. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Welcome, everybody that's here at the meeting. And let's see the agenda. The first, I have to find it. All right. The first order of business is the approval of the agenda. The motion to
I'll make a
approve it.
motion.
Okay.
The agenda or the minutes?
Yeah, the agenda.
The agenda.
Is that a second?
I'll second the agenda.
Okay. All right, Phil. Beat you. Okay. The motion has been made and seconded to approve the agenda as written here. All those in favor say aye.
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 So the agenda is approved. Approval of the minutes. Everybody has gotten copies and read them, I presume. I read them and looked like they pretty much reflected what happened.
Motion to approve.
Okay, Phil has made a motion to
I'll
approve,
second.
and Jason has made a
Jordan?
second.
Jordan.
Jordan, we'll get it right.
Yeah.
I was thinking, it doesn't sound right. Okay, and Jordan has made the move to second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. To
Aye.
approve. Aye, I'll say aye. So the minutes are accepted as written. The, where are we? I keep losing that. Okay, the next order of business is to approach or look at docket, Board of Adjustment 5/2021-3. It has been tabled at the last meeting. We need a motion to.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Jordan has made a motion to remove it from the table. Is seconded by Elizabeth. Any discussion? All those in favor of removing it from the table and discussing it actively here, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, aye. So the motion passes unanimously. So the docket BOA 5/2021-3 is up for discussion. And we had previously had a public hearing, so the commissioners are free to ask the petitioners and all those involved any questions that you may have on it. I will read it again. It's to consider the petition of Mark Daly in regards to the following: a variance to allow a building site to be established from a registered feedlot consisting of more than 50 animal units, 650-foot distance from a feedlot instead of the required 1,000 feet pursuant to chapter 10.4.4, 5 parentheses, C parentheses, and chapter 8.5.1, 1 parentheses, C parentheses of the Winona zoning ordinance. So we're open for discussion. And we have the amended petition, don't we?
There was an update, I believe, that was
Or an
provided.
update.
You may want to inquire of Eric as to
Okay.
what the status is of the
Yeah,
petition at this
that's
point.
what
Right,
I
good
would like
idea,
Eric to
yes.
give
Okay,
us,
Eric.
give us a recent
Okay.
background.
Yeah. Eric,
Yeah,
what
I
you
guess
gonna
if we
update
want
us?
to display the June 4th memo, I think that was an attempt to summarize where we're at today. The board may recall that during the May 20th Board of Adjustment meeting, after a lengthy discussion, we tabled that decision. The original request was to allow a new house to be positioned 650 feet from an existing feedlot or neighboring feedlot. With that memo that's displayed, I believe it's page 11 of the packet, a couple of points I just wanted to touch on and highlight. I visited the site on May 26th, and due to some of the discussion that we had, I visited Mr. Brian Sanders' property, and I looked or observed and GPSed the coordinates of a potential 120 by 120 future expansion area. It could be buildings. Carly also visited the site today, which there is now additional information as far as what that area of that field by the neighbor could potentially be used in a feedlot capacity too. So she'll add on to my comments at that point. I then also visited Mr. Mark Daly's house site, in which he moved to the south and to the east, at least between 200 to 300 feet from the original position. I examined where the house corners approximately would be, and I GPSed those corners. Based on the information that I garnished from that, the new request and staff's recommendation would be, should the Board of Adjustment take action on it and potentially grant this request, the distance has been amended or revised to be 815 feet instead of the 650 as originally contemplated. So the distance or the amount of footage that may apply here has been changed. There's also a GIS map. I just want to correct, it shows 821, but that's using the beacon system. Drawing those measuring tools on that county beacon system is sometimes a little tough to get a static exact measurement, but I actually measured from the GPS points to the GPS points, and I just want to stress that it was 815 feet is what the revised distance would be. Also in the memo, that those events are documented with that. And then, I guess should the Board of Adjustment contemplate this revision, staff has also presented change or amendment into findings number 1 as on the bottom of that memo.
Carly, you
And
have- I'm sorry.
any questions on that?
Yes, so today Brian Sanders did submit a development certificate application for expanding that feedlot area to be included. But also on top of that, when I was out there with him, I realized that he uses that area for fall, spring, and winter feeding. So that is an area that is without vegetative cover for more than 6 months out of the year. So it would already be considered part of his feedlot. So he can expand there with no problems in the future with this. So he will be allowed to build there past.
Without a variance?
Without a variance.
Without a variance.
Without a variance.
So his rights are preserved.
His rights are preserved.
Okay.
Nice.
Any,
Win-win.
Okay, thank you, Carly. And Eric, do you have questions, Jordan or Elizabeth, for anyone?
No, my concern has always been that both parties have their rights regarded and respected. And if that works that way, then I would, except I do have a question.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
This is complicated, at least for me. We still are not meeting the 1,000-foot setback. We're agreeing
Right.
to modify that. Is this a precedent?
This is what you're here for. You're here to decide whether or not he should be given an exception to that 1,000-foot setback based on the criteria. So it doesn't set a precedent that you're evaluating each individual request on its own merits, and one doesn't necessarily control for another every time you sit down and say, should we give this property the exception in this particular case?
Okay, and this is the Daley case.
I'm sorry, what?
And this is, the petitioner is Mr. Daley in this case.
Yeah, Mark.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Mark Daly is a petitioner to build the house.
Right.
Yeah, within that 1,000-foot setback. But yeah, and he's moved, yeah, he's putting the house further away to accommodate,
right.
yeah, Mr. Sanders. Yeah, and as far as, as Stephanie said, every variance is on its own. You look at the merits and decide.
Even though we have,
Yeah, so, right, and so so in the future, someone said, well, you made this exception for
Right.
this person, that's not a valid reason to grant another one, or the way I understand it.
really?
It doesn't set a legal precedent.
Okay, all right.
Every variance is unique.
You can consider the similarities, but in every case, you have to make your decision based solely or based on the petition itself and whether that one meets the criteria or not.
Is Mr. Sanders happy?
You can ask him.
He's on the phone.
He's on the phone.
Mr. Sanders? Hello, Mr. Sanders?
Unmute him, Kay.
I mean, I can ask him to unmute.
Oh.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
Hello?
Yep.
Okay.
hello,
Mhm. Hello.
Hi.
hello. Mr.
Hello.
Sanders, this is Elizabeth Hubline. I have a question for you. Are you okay with the findings?
The way I see it, the only thing that's gonna protect the future of my business is 1,000 feet. 1,000 feet is 1,000 feet, and then I can do whatever I want. Other than that, I have not seen in writing where I don't have to get a variance from whoever builds over there. So I'm still against it.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Mhm. Any other questions?
Well, Katie, no,
Carly.
Carly, yeah,
I have a granddaughter by that name.
there.
But you said in your report that he
Yep,
will,
he will not need a variance to expand to the east at
and,
all.
and that will be in a written form?
That will, when he is issued a development certificate, it will be on there that you are expanded. It's part of the record. So it's not necessarily that I would be providing that in writing. I don't know if that's something that I can do.
Essentially, Carly and the staff is citing that the feedlot already exists further to the east than the manure pit right now. So if he wants to build and go to the east, and you can look on page 13 in
Yeah,
the,
I got it.
yeah, it shows the picture.
Mhm.
Yep, and then you can see where the little red squares and then
Yeah,
where the manure pit is.
Yeah.
So that area before was, it would have been, with the house being permitted on prime soils, then that would have limited him. He would have to get a variance. Now he does not. He's free to build in the area, like a solid building in areas already using part of the time for feed storage and feeding.
So I assume this was, the new findings of fact were drafted before Carly went out to Mr. Sanders' farm.
Correct.
So the variance was in harmony with the intent and purpose of the ordinance prior to even knowing that he wouldn't need a variance, right?
That was the recommended finding from the planning department.
Okay.
And does his lawyer have a statement?
I was out of the office when the memo was drafted, but given the information, I think there's enough points that we can change that finding to cover that, if that's your wish.
Um,
In fact, why don't I put the findings, I'll put the original findings up. We can make whatever modifications you choose if you
Okay.
choose to do that. So give me just a moment.
There is, yeah, on page 12, that's a change, right, on one, the variance request is in harmony, as the other one was the staff conclusion, when it was not in harmony. And the change is that Mr. Daly, Mark has moved the house quite a bit to accommodate. I think one of the considerations originally was in prime soils, and prime soils can include woodlots. I mean, this was maybe farmed at one time, but it can include, and it can include slopes and everything else. And it doesn't mean it's really tillable now. So I think that was a big factor in this consideration, is that the wood, that would make good use out of a wooded area and not really affect any presently used prime soils. Not farmed now, it hasn't been farmed because there's big trees in it, so.
Yeah, I think
Quite a long time.
it's too wet in that area to.
Yeah, and
do
there's
anything else.
there's a slope, and yeah, without having seen it, and so is that oh, that's the old one, yeah.
Yep, this is the original that I'm
Yeah.
revising. So I'm gonna
Oh,
take some
okay.
notes as you guys talk, and then you can tell me what you want
Okay.
included in any findings if you choose to revise it.
Is, we can just look at the new finding that staff thinks is in harmony with the intent and purpose of the ordinance.
Right, in that June 4th memo, there's some suggested different language too.
Right, and
I
that's-
just maybe want to point that out.
Yeah, in the new distance, and Stephanie is working on the possible wording. As far as the other findings, is everyone have any thoughts on those, or are you comfortable with them?
I just need a clarification.
Let's go ahead, yeah.
Here, the variance request is in harmony, quote unquote, with the intent and purpose. So that's what we're working on, is the intent and purpose of this ordinance, not the literal absolute 1,000 feet.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because, and that's the issue with the variance, is that we can change that, because otherwise it wouldn't even be considered 1,000 feet. We can change that. If we think it's still if we think we're still allowing a farmer what's affected reasonable room to expand without having to, get a variance, and also accommodate a farmer who owns the land, wants to build on his land, even though he could build many other places, but it's his land, and he's looking to build in a marginal, even though it's prime soil, and actually in granting the variance of prime soils, we already, so we've already allowed that. And then I'd just like to point out again is that in granting the prime soil, he's free to build and now that Carly they've changed the distance. Otherwise, he could have been up right on Road 18 and built his house right next to the road there, within 1,000 feet of that manure pit. And that would have been entirely legal. I mean, within his means. If he wanted to build there, because we've allowed him to build anywhere in that farm, prime soil, other than slopes or things like that. And so if Mark wanted to be, to a point or something, he could build there right now, and as was before, 1,000 feet from that manure pit. Now he'd have to be a little further the other way, and that has already been granted, that he can. And then if Brian wanted to expand further east, he would have to get a variance regardless, and there wouldn't. So just by anybody building within a feedlot, keeping the 1,000-foot setback in a circle, then that immediately limits that feedlot ability to expand towards that house. It can expand away, but so there's always a give and take here on, otherwise, it could be arbitrary, like 2,000, 3,000 feet, but in trying to balance the interest. So, yeah, Stephanie is revising. I guess one thing I asked is, does anybody have any questions or problems with the other findings? The other 7, and where are they on,
The other one?
on the original petition, the 7 other findings? There wasn't, staff didn't have an approval criteria on page 19 with the original ones. Is that there?
They're also on this screen.
Up on screen, which I can't see. But so you're probably better off looking at your.
I think it
but,
was originally page 23, Bob.
23.
Yes, this is Eric again. If you look at the
Oh, yeah, there we go.
June 4th memo, the second page, there's also a suggested changing to finding number 1 with some language for your consideration too.
I do think that that can be consolidated. I did put
Yeah.
together some
Okay.
proposed language.
Okay. So, Jordan or Elizabeth or Phil, did you have on any of the other, and on page 23 on the Board of Adjustment packet, the fine print, the 23 one, and going and up in 2, 3, 4, yeah, 5, 6, 7, and 8, did anyone have any questions or problems with those? Yeah, if we're fine with those,
Yeah, I'm fine with those.
then we can concentrate on one, which is the crooks. These were when we had the previous hearing that we were also looking at. We didn't go through them. I think they're pretty routine and fit in. They're not.
I believe, Bob, if I may interject, on page 12 is what Eric was referring to on that June 4th memo. I'm thinking the wording,
Yes.
if that was to be transposed into the rest of our findings of facts, I think
Yeah.
it would take care of it.
Okay. I don't want to influence anybody's vote, but I do feel that it does fit in with the purpose of the county in that we're trying to accommodate agriculture on both sides. Mark Daly is a farmer also, and it's, his land. And Brian Sanders is a farmer, and he can expand. I mean, now that the feedlot is established to be actually further, and that Mark Daly has agreed to move the house further away yet. And then also in the findings too, at the variance, it states in there that you can't complain. I mean, you don't have, I'm essentially saying you have to expect noise and smell and all this, which you're both aware of, that they're aware of that when they build a house there. So are there any other questions? Elizabeth, do you have?
So, yeah, and I'm not trying to be
No,
difficult.
absolutely not.
I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah.
And as I said, my primary intent is to make sure that both parties are fairly treated. And, okay, is that the final of the edits?
So if you were to, based on the conversations I've heard, based on everything we've gotten, all the new information, if you chose to modify it to the variance request is in harmony, I might suggest simply replacing the last sentence of the original finding with after reevaluation and modification of the project and discussion with the property owner and feedlot owner, a setback of 815 feet would still enable the feedlot to expand as desired. And that would then,
In the future.
potentially, correct. That should then address the concerns that were previously raised as well as the discussion of today, and it would support a change to that finding.
And there can't be any statement in there about expansion without need of a variance?
I think the record's been pretty clear on that thus far. It's been said in the minute, it'll be in the minutes. It's here that he will be able to expand as desired. I think it's been made clear.
Yeah, right now, and as he said, he would prefer to be able to expand, like not to have any problem, if he wanted to keep going east, and that's right. So that's his concern, but but essentially, yeah, it is, both parties have, accommodated or originally before Carly, checked to see where the feedlot actually is. And so both parties have benefited from adjustments. And I don't think, because like I was just pointing out, is that right now, he has the right to build a house right on 18, which he doesn't want to do, within 1,000 feet of the feed area, not the manure pit. And then Mr. Sanders would have to get a variance to expand closer to his house, which he can do right now. That's already been granted, the prime soil one. So by granting the prime soil, building anywhere on his farm, if an individual wanted to be cantankerous, prove a point or something, he could. So it's benefits both parties to kind of accommodate, but it can't be put more specific legally to tie anybody in the future.
As long as nobody's hands are tied for.
As much as possible. I think, like I was saying before, no matter what you do, at some point somebody's hands will be tied because it allows 1,000 feet. Right now, a person can be, if they want to build within 1,000 feet of any feedlot and they meet the other conditions, they can do that without a variance. And that feedlot then is thereby limited already by, it cannot go closer without a variance. So the very fact of having, allowing building a house within 1,000 feet, that immediately ties the hands, and that's the county zoning. And so, like Brian is, very aware of that and watching out for his, rights and in regardless of the owners, like Mark Daly's intentions, that can't be put down paper or anything like I promise not to object or so it's probably as close as we can get to a accommodation. Are there any other questions? Phil, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good, Bob, thank you.
Okay. Does anyone wish to make a motion approving or disapproving this petition?
You
do
should
we
probably
need-
address whether you're gonna change condition, criteria.
Oh, that's
one
okay, right,
first.
Yeah.
yes. Okay, yeah, I was
So-
assuming. Yeah, so we need a motion to change the
I would-
the wording.
I would make a motion to accept it as it is on the screen.
Okay. Jordan has made a motion to accept the modifications to the first finding as written.
With
displayed on
is
the
instead
screen.
of is not,
Ooh,
Mr.
Yeah,
Chair?
with is, sorry.
That it is, oh yeah, you have to,
Second.
that it is in harmony. It's a minor detail. See, legally, it doesn't really matter because they say, well, that was just a mistake.
I'll second his motion.
Okay, Phil has seconded the motion.
Actually, Mr. Chair, Elizabeth had seconded the motion prior to Phil's second.
Oh, did, okay, I missed that. Okay, thanks, Phil, but Elizabeth has seconded the motion to change the first finding as it is written on the screen to say that essentially that the request is in harmony with the ordinance, agricultural ordinance comprehensive plan. Is there discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve the changes to finding one, say aye.
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 Did Phil vote?
Yeah, I said aye.
Okay, very good. Okay, so the motion is accepted as stated and voted unanimously. Okay, then we are, if there's no more discussion, we're open to a motion to grant the petition with the findings as written and conditions.
Make a motion to go.
Okay. All
I
right.
would second that.
Okay, motion's been made by Elizabeth and seconded by Jordan to approve the petition with the changes made to finding one as written with all the conditions. Okay, is there a discussion? Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the
Mr.
petition?
Chair?
Oh, sorry.
Just a point of clarification, was the motion also to revise the variance to 815 feet rather than the original request for 650?
Yes. I guess, yeah, if
Thank you.
that's all right with
Yes.
Elizabeth, I guess,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
isn't that okay?
Definitely.
Yep. Okay. And let's see, where were we? Ready to vote? Or I guess, is there any discussion, any more discussion or clarifications, questions? All right, all those in favor of approving the petition as written with all the findings and the conditions, say aye.
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 Bill says aye.
Okay, Phil says aye. Okay, motion carries. And the next order of business is it adjournment? Oh, I have to read a little bit first. The Board of Adjustment appeal to the district court. All decisions by the Board of Adjustment in granting variances or in hearing appeals from any administrative order, requirement, decision, or determination shall be final, except that any aggrieved person or persons or any department, board or commission of the jurisdiction or of the state shall have the right to appeal within 30 days after receipt of notice of the decision to the district court in the county in which the land is located on questions of law and fact. Any party that would like to submit an appeal to the decision rendered at the public hearing must do so to the district court. Planning and Environmental Services is not responsible for filing the appeal or obtaining representation by counsel or the petitioner. All right. I guess there is no more business. Do we have to move to adjourn or just leave?
I'd make
Okay.
a move to adjourn.
Okay, Elizabeth has made the move
I'll second that.
and Jordan has seconded the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, meeting is adjourned.